I have one word. Can you hear me now? Okay, we've got one word for you this morning. Here it is.
You know, we are so excited.
Got
I
a wider
love
marker.
getting old
VBS.
because when you get old, things don't, they don't bother you as badly as when you're young. When you're VBS is, yeah, what did I say? Did I say that? Did I say that? I am so sorry. I stand corrected. Believe me. We're coming forward. I want to be with my people. Okay, is that good? Are we close now?
News, and I got some good news.
Great news.
Okay, some great news. The bad news is the Reverend Dr. Toby Montgomery is stuck in Seattle.
The
He
good
got
news
actually
is
he actually got broke down, stuck in Seattle on his second mechanical failure airplane of his trip today.
the
So
good
last
news
night
is you get to
he was supposed to be in
experience
Anchorage at
us.
11:30 last night. He didn't get there, but he was going to be early out of Seattle this morning. He didn't get there, so he'll be in here prayerfully sometime today. So the bad news is Toby's not here. The good news, Miriam
You
is.
get to experience us.
So, uh, so we're going to do
So what I was thinking is,
our world famous table talk.
and what I was thinking is, Alan kind of made this little joke, maybe last night. No problem if Toby doesn't come, Miriam will just speak. And I thought, that's what I said. Yeah, right. And I had a little bit of attitude, but I got healed right away. And I decided, you know what? If that's what God wants, that's what we'll do. So then last night, when we found out he wasn't coming, on the way home from church, I said, Alan, what is the plan? Okay, plans for Alan?
Plans.
Plan.
What's that?
Plan. Is there a plan? Should there be a plan? And so all the way to the camp, I'm like, Alan, we have to have a plan. I mean, these people are getting up early, and some of them are really sacrificing to come to the church to see Toby, and he's not going to be there. So I'm stressing out over this change. And Alan,
Wait a minute, there's a hand in the back.
yes, sir. I'll pay you afterwards. It's good. That was great timing. We rehearsed that all evening. So change is a struggle for a lot of our personalities, namely mine. And so other personalities are like, yeah, baby, change. Let's do this. And that's him. And except for that's about as far as it goes. And then I am really stuck in the change mode and the crisis mode. And what are we going to do next? And so we went through all of these scenarios from here to the camp, and we had it all planned out, we thought. We actually played cards till 11:30 last night, feeling really good about ourselves. And then I get home this morning, and I go, this is not good. This is not good. This is not right. This is not going to happen. This won't do it for them. This won't help them cope with what's happening to them this morning when Toby Montgomery is not standing up here filled with all his biblical knowledge. This will... Thank you very much. And so then I said, so Alan comes in thinking we got this right. He's on it. He's doing about his morning thing. I said, we're not doing that. Well, what are we going to do?
The queen of no change
So
changes everything.
What are we going to do? I said, we're going to do something different. I said, these people are expecting a walking Bible in here. And I said, and what are they going to do when we come up with our little things we think so perfect that we're going to talk about? And it has nothing to do with what they're feeling inside. So what we're going to talk about is coping with change. Coping with change. Change for me is, I have to grow into change. I have to work through change. It's not my most favorite thing, and I have to analyze change.
Lord,
it's my turn,
crazy.
And I have to live with change. Spontaneous change.
Yeah. Hey.
Whatever happens, do it, Miriam.
Go with the flow.
drives me crazy. But I love it because in the end, sometimes spontaneity is the best change that there can be. It's the stressful kind, Mr. Lee, that you spoke about, that sometimes ruins and takes the life out of change. So we're going to talk about coping with change because that's what you're all doing right now. You're changing your mindset. Your brain's still stuck on Toby. He's not here. Say it out loud. Toby is not here.
Much as I prayed
He is
and
not here.
wanted, he's not here.
And so now flip the switch and say, we're going to dive into what it feels like to cope with change. Because that's what we're all doing this morning. So I'm going to take a few seconds, and I want you just to respond to me gently, kindly, because I am fragile. What you might be feeling right now about this change with no Toby.
My friend Duffy is still in the building. There we go.
Okay. Oh, I like this group, don't you, Alan? They make life work for us. So, you know, a common area that we struggle with as Christians is the power of changing circumstances. It doesn't matter if we're Christians or not Christians. We struggle with changing circumstances. You know, I thought about our friends Lori and Steve. They built their dream house about 19 years ago. It is a dream house, I'm telling you. And it's who they are. They put into that house who they are. And the Lord's been dealing with them, and they've been praying about selling their home. And even though God was dealing with them, they prayed about selling their home. God answered their prayer. Their home sold. There was an element of stress that comes with that because of the change. Now they're living in a home that's beautiful, brand new. No one's ever lived in it before. It's not theirs, but it's theirs while they rent it. But it causes an element of stress. Give me that paper. And change, and an element of a discussion, an upheaval, a loss. Even though they chose it, it's a loss. They're experiencing loss. They're going through grief. They're going through change. Merits a lot of other different emotions that comes with it.
So, like, change is the only thing that's really constant.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like constant. I mean, you're going to deal with change every day of your life. You make your plans. You get it all figured out. But God just rains on your parade. Or life rains on your parade. I mean, the COVID thing, the change of the COVID thing.
How about the graduations this year?
Now
we made it through that. We all lived through it. They did all kinds of creative, wonderful things for graduation that the children felt actually spotlighted more so than a lot of them would have ever been at a normal graduation. Now it's, I wonder if the kids are going to school. Last night we're sitting at the table, and grandmas, not just mothers, are saying, do you know if the kids are going back to school this fall? The new concern is about that change, and that's a real, genuine concern. Or let's just say maybe you just got married. That's a huge change. Or maybe you're going through a breakup in your marriage. That's a huge change.
You know, remember when we were in college, we had a dear friend who was engaged and to get married, and they had all of they had shower, they had bridal shower, they had everything, got all these gifts. And was it a week or a day or two?
Oh, I think it was the night before.
The night before, she changed her mind.
She didn't want to get married.
She changed her mind.
He wasn't the one.
And said, you're not the one.
And they had a room full of gifts, and they mailed every one of them back.
The dude was devastated.
And she never did get married.
Change is I mean, I know in your life, some of you guys are dealing with major change in your life. Your marriage is not happening like you thought it would. Your dreams, your plans,
a new baby,
your grandkids, everything you
lined up
ain't happening.
Retirement,
divorce, devastation.
You know, failure of some kind of adapting to a greater responsibility.
Moving to Texas,
other
dear
people
Lord.
moving into your home. Other people, because of tragic circumstances, moving into your home and living with you, throwing you into a whirlwind, accepting a new life into your family that you chose, that you wanted really badly, but along with it comes a huge change. A huge change. So changes are difficult. Changes and learning to cope with change is a large part of our maturing process.
Oh, maturing process.
On our journey in life. Alan and I, the older we get, the more changes there are. Changes are in every area of our lives are inevitable, and there'll always be changes. So the first thing we need to understand and accept is that there will be change, and we don't need to be surprised by that or upset.
If you get upset like Miriam does,
like Alan does,
with change,
with me, because I get upset about change.
I mean, you're just going to be upset.
Yeah.
I mean, change is inevitable, and it is going to happen. We make our plans, but God directs our steps, Proverbs says.
So, I guess what we're saying is, if we accept that change is a natural part of life, we can more easily learn the things we need to do to cope with it.
So change, and when people, you get, communication, one of the biggest breakdown. I know we're not talking about communication, but
it goes along with change.
And Roman, I remembered the other night you asked me about this morning and the men's not Bible study, but men's breakfast. So we have men's breakfast planned for this morning, but nobody showed up, but Roman and me, and we didn't even sit at the same table, and so it wasn't. So I would imagine, that if he went expecting a big old fellowship, a bunch of guys, and I went expecting a couple of guys to come and nobody showed up, then what do I do? I'm not happy, and I'm wondering why Roman didn't sit with me, and then I was sitting with the other guy, and he was sitting over by himself, and he probably wondered why I wasn't sitting with him, and we get communication breakdown going on, and things change. It's not what I planned.
So change can cause disappointment, huge disappointment. I mean, for me, I'll be honest, I'm disappointed Toby's not here. I wanted him to be here today. And not because we're doing what we're doing, but because he's not here. I was anticipating him being here. So I have a choice to have, I'm mad because I got up and there's no Toby. I'm mad because I spilled coffee all over my goose down comforter today when I was getting ready to come here. There's just lots of things I could be upset about.
I go in the room, the woman's depressed.
I'm just standing there staring at my comforter.
I thought somebody had died or something, and she spilled coffee on her comforter.
Well, you know what? I don't like coffee on my comforter. So change happens. Accidental change. On purpose change. Change we have no power over.
I hate those.
So we're going to talk about a few things of how to cope with it.
I like controlling my change.
But Alan, we need to keep change in perspective.
What's that mean?
Well, that means that there's an ebb and flow in life that bring natural changes with them. We have to keep that in mind.
What's that mean?
In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, Solomon said there was a time for everything under the sun, and all the things he mentions have to do with change. It's birth, death, beginnings, endings, war, peace, searching, giving up, building, tearing down. Are not all these things part of change?
COVID, no COVID.
COVID-19. All these mandates, here today, gone tomorrow. We wake up every morning wondering, what are we going to do? Okay, what are they going to tell us to do today? Hey.
The governor's going to speak to this evening, by the way, at 5 o'clock. He's going to give us some new.
93 new cases yesterday in the state of Alaska. So if we read that, we wouldn't be sitting in here, would we? Just saying. But change comes. The coping problem that change causes is dealing with how we feel about the different set of circumstances.
You use the key word.
That we face.
How we feel.
Are you nervous?
Your feelings are deceptive.
Are you depressed? What's going on in your world about the changes in your life? What are you allowing your mind to dictate to you about the changes in your life? Listen, if I had listened to my mind about the changes in my life when I moved here to Soldotna, Alaska, I wouldn't be sitting on this stage, and I would not be talking to you or anyone else. I don't know. I don't even know if I'd be alive. I mean, I was that forlorn and depressed and distressed about God keeping me in the woods. Because
She's serious.
everybody knows that I'm a priss pot and I don't belong in the woods. I don't fit in this scenario. In the natural.
I married her.
Excuse me, it's my turn. But in God's eyes, I obviously do. And it was obviously not just for you, it was for me. As just as much for me. To open the eyes of my heart to see Jesus and to grow and to change. So why do we fight it so hard? The change will change everything, when in reality only a part of our lives will be different. That could be one reason.
You know, Miriam, you mentioned earlier about our mind and feelings and the thing. Isn't it crazy how our mind can take a thought, a statement, a comment, a compliment, and go nuts? Now, I don't know about yours, but man, take a thought, take a word.
I can build a whole story.
Her mind is kind of.
And it's real.
Oh.
It's so real, I believe it myself.
It's she goes into a whole.
And when I tell it to
castle.
you, you can believe it too.
And it ain't none
and
of
it's
it.
so not true.
It's crazy. The imagining the worst and the feelings, and she's
Feelings
convinced.
lie. They trip you up.
Absolutely.
They can destroy you.
They
There was
cheat
a song
you out of so many blessings because you're afraid.
There's a song that Frank Montgomery or somebody wrote. Sometimes what I feel may not be true, but I have learned to put my trust in you. And how the rest goes.
I don't know. I ain't going to do that. I ain't going there.
Fear is
Fear
a
is a
liar.
liar. And
Fear is
that's
a liar.
and that's one of the biggies that we're fixing to get to here about fear. But I wanted to just highlight the whole thing of our mental feelings. And I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm sitting in church and I'm listening to a pastor or a preacher, I can have an out-of-body experience and be gone, and I'm sitting there staring at him, but I'm not even here.
Oh.
I am gone. I'm somewhere else. There's reds in the river, and I'm down, or I'm in,
Or
and go and totally
possibly
gone.
we got triggered by the words that he was speaking.
One word. Sometimes if a person says something in a sermon that I disagree with or don't like, I will go down a trail of disagreeing in my mind and arguing with him and planning all the 17 reasons why that's not true.
Because God could be trying to change you, Alan.
And totally miss the whole rest of the
and
sermon.
you're fighting that change because it feels different to you.
The feelings and our thoughts can trip us up so bad.
I'm just saying. So let's look at some perspectives of what change could be like. The change will change everything, when in reality only a part of our lives will be different.
Exactly. If I do this change, my world's going to change. No, not necessarily.
The change is too fast.
A little part.
When the real problem is that we're slow in accepting the inevitable.
Are you an early adopter? Are you a late adopter? Are you a mid adopter? Have you ever thought about it?
The change is for the worst. We say this because we are judging only the immediate results and not the long-term effects that may yield good fruit.
It's going to be horrible. It's terrible. This is bad. I got a kid. It's driving me crazy. What did I do? It's changing my world. It may not change the whole world. It may just change one little area.
The change is not what you wanted. Of course, we think this when our will is crossed. But since when is our will the criteria for what is good or best?
Always.
Isn't that usually when we get all messed up about change? Excuse me? You're going to do what? You're going to change what? That's not what I want. That's when we get frustrated. That's when we get attitudes. That's when we get anger. This morning, for instance, focus is a foreign word for this man. And it's getting closer and closer to this time. I said, Alan, we're going through change here. You've got to help us. And I said, we're going to model that on the stage.
She got ticked.
I got so ticked at him.
She was
because
so
he would
upset
not
with me.
fine-tune this situation. We're being real because that's what change does to all of us.
And this ain't no
No, it's not.
dramatization
No.
here, okay?
I had to tell him to sit down and listen.
She was ticked. And I'm like, chill.
And I will tell you, he sat down, whether he listened or not. I cannot guarantee you that, but he did give me his blue eyes. It worked for me. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes the change we dictate is more for us than for the other person that we're inflicting that upon. Does that make sense? So we need to be aware of that.
Hey, Kevin, you're next. Don't go too
Yeah,
far.
don't even
okay?
think of it. Yes, I do. Okay, change is less unsettling when we can see the big picture and not just the small
this is huge.
universe of our own lives.
This is huge. So many people never see big picture.
Yeah.
One of the difference between many leaders and many people who are not leaders is seeing the big picture. Mm-hmm. You focus on right here, right now. And when I learned to drive, my struggle with driving, I remember as a teenager, is I kept looking at the road right here. Yeah. And look right there. And my dad kept telling me, look out in front. You got to look out further. You got to look where you're going, not where you're at the moment. And so looking at that big picture is huge for change.
It's so applicable for marriage relationships. You know, when you have a conflict, you know, all you're seeing is that little box of what you're upset about right now. What about the big mansion that you've already built of love and hope and fun and life and all of the blessings that God has given? Oh, no, that all just disappears because you're focused on that one little window of what's not good, what's not the way you wanted it, what's not what you like, who's not behaving the way that you think they should, or they're not saying the things they should say, or being there for you when you think they should be there for you. And that's not just in marriages, that's friendships.
But in marriage, you know, Miriam, you're just saying that. I know, and I just was thinking as you were saying that, I named 3, 4, 5 couples. Yeah. Right now in my mind, we've known over the years, and one of the perspectives, one of the things about getting old is perspective, looking back, yeah. is they went through a tough time in their relationship, and he and or she, one or the other, focused on the negative, got to looking at the bad things about this person, and this way he didn't do this, and he don't do that,
the
and his
immediate,
feet stink,
small
and
universe.
This little thing, and they divorced,
yeah.
And then he goes on or she goes on and makes a life and does well in life, and that person who found another, had an affair, ran off, whatever, and I'm thinking like 2 couples I know right now, the wives are struggling really, they're married, they're in a bad relationship. The man himself went on and had a great career, and we're talking 20 years post-divorce, and he is retired and alone, but more money than he knows what to do with, and not able to have anybody to enjoy it. She's in a bad marriage with a broken down husband taking care of him and nursing him, and they ain't got no money and they barely can pay attention. And whereas it's a mess. If they got past that little box that you're talking about, the immediate problems, and got their mind off of why the bad and embrace the good.
And the reason we want to change the little box is because it hurts.
It hurts right now, though. We get thinking immediate.
But it hurts. We want it to go away.
We want that pain to go away.
We want that to go away. And what we're not understanding is that little box is not just about me. That little box is affecting, let me bring it home. My mom and dad were my pastors when I was born in the church. Okay? Okay, they're not just my mom and dad, but they're my spiritual mom and dad, my pastors. The ones that modeled Jesus before me. And when I was in my 20s, actually 23, 24 years old, my mother started having an affair with the main leader in the church that they pastored and denying it. And my father was brokenhearted. And when I sang the song at Duffy's funeral, Why Me, Lord, it was the first time I had sung that in ever. Because my father used to hang over our big stereo in the living room, crying out to God, why me, Lord? Why me, Lord? Now, it didn't go with the words, but all he heard was the why me, Lord, was this happening to me.
And what, 5 years she was having the affair and denied it, and
Well,
he knew it, and he
denied
couldn't
it.
prove it.
I
And he
mean,
was
it
pastoring
was
a church.
very
It was
ugly.
horrible. We were
Claiming
gone.
that he was crazy.
We were gone, and yes, she tried to get him put in a mental institution, said he was crazy.
And my mother was a very spiritual woman. She
Good woman.
modeled before me the many things that you see that I do in this church. My mom modeled that for me. It's natural for me. It's what I thought everybody did as Christians, but obviously we have different roles that we play. So I go home and visit from California, and one of the things that was taboo was listening to country music. That was a huge sin. Couldn't do that. And so I go in, and my mother's listening to country music, to Freddie Fender. And it's Wasted Days and Wasted Nights. I had never heard of Freddie Fender. I had never heard of Wasted Days and Wasted Nights. And I'm in the bedroom about to lose my mind, and my mom says, "Hon, ain't he the best singer you ever heard?" And those words, I love those words. That's what she said to me. It just about blew my mind. Later in the day, another one was soap operas. You didn't dare watch soap operas. You were going straight to hell to not pass go, to not collect $200. There's no discussion. It's where it is. And what did she say? "Oh, Miriam, come on, hon, we're going to get us a sandwich and watch All My Children. It's my favorite." I said, "All My Children?" I said, "Mama, what's happened to you?" "What do you mean?" "Nothing." Then we go to the grocery store later, and we're sitting in the parking lot, and she says to me, "So, hon, if I were to tell you that I was going to leave your dad, what would you say to me?" And I said, "I would tell you, I know that's not true, because all my life you have modeled before me in the Word of God what is right and what is wrong, and that you've taught me is not right, and that it is wrong." And she didn't know what to say to that, and little did I know the plan was already laid, and she did do that. She left him. She had it all mapped out, let me tell you.
Unbelievable.
So all she needed to do for her was to get relief from my godly, spiritual, insanely jealous,
Control freaking.
controlling father. You're like, "Oh no, you just painted a bad picture of both of them." Yes. That's usually what's going on in the little box. It's never just one. It's everyone in the box that needs to be looked at. And all of us are screaming for change at the same time. It depends on the one that has the most courage. I don't know if that's courage.
Stupid.
Anyway, to step out of that box and demand change quickly, whether it takes place or not. And the only reason I brought that picture out is because it didn't just hurt my mom. I have 3 siblings. We all love Jesus, and we are very estranged because of that scenario, that little universe.
So that's part of it.
That little universe, we all had different memories, different experiences. Isn't that the way change is? We have different memories, different experiences, and that's what we operate on. So change many times can be for the good for one person and not good for the other.
You know, I love what Rick Warren says. Rick Warren says, life is not up and down. You've heard me say this before. Right. I'm happy, wonderful, things great. I'm down, I'm depressed. He said life is a set of railroad tracks.
Yep.
We've always got good and bad going on in our life all the time. Right now, you got some bad stuff going on in your life, and I got in mine, and I got some good stuff. The key is which one you focus on.
Yep.
You can focus on the bad,
Yep.
or you can focus on the good. In your relationships, in your job, in your home, in your family, in every area of life, it's which one you choose to focus on.
And my mom and dad's change threw me into change. Threw my siblings into change. We had to make constant adjustments. Some of you are sitting here, and other people's lives have dictated change for your life.
And it wasn't your fault.
You didn't choose it. You didn't go looking for it, but it's real. It's where it is. And the key is, what are we going to do? We're going to learn to keep it in perspective. Changes in life are constant, and most changes work out in the long run. But it takes time.
Takes time. And you've heard me say this, the only person that likes change is a wet baby.
Yeah.
None of us like change.
For our world, I was 24 years old when that change came into my world. My sweet sister was 18. My other sister was 24. Brother
30.
was 30, and my other sister was 32. All at very critical ages of our sphere of development. And it has taken us many years, now that I will be 66 next month. My older siblings will be in their 70s, and my younger sister will turn 60. And we're all just now coming to full circle and balance. Because we all had to operate through change and navigate in our own sphere of perspectives. Listen, everybody's perspectives are different. We have perspectives from where we come from. We listen through our ear gates from the filters that we have. I can say one statement, and if I ask each of you what you heard, you'd be surprised at the different things that you heard from that one statement.
We learned a thing in our relationship years ago called loaded words. There's loaded words Miriam can say to me, and I'll go nuts.
So
Stupid. I mean, just crazy, because triggers, and much better now. But in our early years, and my immaturity, just go nuts over a stupid statement. And she didn't even mean anything by it, but it triggered a past. So the filters, like glasses in our life, filter things that come. And what she wasn't even meaning what she said,
No.
but I knew she meant it to dig at me.
Oh,
I knew
buddy.
she, and
Like the shower.
just insecurities.
What was it in the shower that time?
Oh,
What did you
please.
do?
You
No,
gotta
you need to
bring
tell
that
it,
up,
Alan.
you
You
know.
need to tell
Okay.
it.
So we're over
need to
here
tell 'em
living.
what you did to me.
We're living next door years ago, way long time ago. It was years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm in the shower. And I take long showers, always have.
Long
And
shower.
so she's, as usual, hurrying me up, telling me to hurry.
We have to go. We're going to be late.
And is she beating on the door and saying, "Are you going to stay all day in the shower? You going to stay in there all day?"
I'm an on-time girl.
And I freaked on her. I told her, "You better not ever say that. I'll stay in here as long as I want to. Don't you ever say that to me again." And I mean, I just lit into her.
And then I had to pray for God not to let him drown.
And then as I finished my shower, I started feeling that guilt and that shame. And then all of a sudden it realized that
You
was the
should've.
phrase that my father used to use to me when I would hide in the bathroom to get away from him and stay in there way too long. And he would beat on that door and threaten to tear the door down if I didn't get out of that bathroom right now. And you're going to stay in there all day. I'm going to tear this door. And that phrase triggered that in me. So a lot of times we think one thing and it's something totally different because of our own loaded words and the mess that was injected upon us. And change is much that same way. We didn't ask for this mess to be thrown on us,
No.
but now we got to deal with it.
We have to deal with it. Yeah. And it's so, I mean, how odd is it? I did learn the hard way when I first moved here. I'm a hugger by nature. In fact, Kevin, anyway, we're not going to talk about that. But I'm a hugger by nature. And so I remember in this church, there was a new couple that came several years ago, 25 years ago?
Yeah.
Dear Lord, how long have we been here? 25 years ago, and I'm just ready to go in for the hug to the woman, and the man goes, no. You can't hug her husband. I said, oh, I don't think I'd ever been told that in my life. And I said, why? She has space issues. I said, oh. He said, now, if you ask her, she may say yes. I said, oh. So I learned. So now I say, do you hug? Can I hug? Do you care if I hug? I say that to everybody. That was before COVID. Before COVID. Because a lot of people are not huggers. Just because you're a hugger. I'm a hugger. But anyway, I learned something valuable, but it also created a change in my life, a change in my thinking. So a lot of times what we want to establish in this first point is that if you feel like your blanket has been wrinkled by something, and stop, take a breath and ask yourself, why is this bothering me? What just happened that negotiated something different inside of me?
What did this trigger in me?
What did it just trigger? What do I need to do about this? Obviously, the answer should always be respond and not react. However, most of us react instead of respond. And it brings a different result. I'm telling you. When Alan reacted to me that day in the shower, had I reacted back, hear me now, it could have been major. It could have caused scars, deep scars. But I realized, oh my goodness, I don't know what I just did, who he just heard, but it wasn't me. So I just left the bathroom.
And that's probably been one of the salvations in our marriage, is her ability to not freak when I freaked.
Yeah.
Because of my abuse, growing up in an abusive home, and my temper, and especially early on in our marriage, and my freaking stupid, and she wouldn't react. And
Well,
you can't get into an argument unless you have two people.
that's right. And I learned that. There's no argument unless there's two participants. You can argue with yourself, but that's okay. Go for it. You're only going to hurt yourself.
And she uses this painful silence thing really horrible. She just gets quiet and let me hear my stupid self.
Well, I learned a valuable lesson as a young woman when God placed me in a ministry position in a college. And he placed me as a dean of women. And mind you, I had never lived in a dormitory in my life. And here I was, the dorm mother.
Just before we came up here.
So I read up on it. I educated myself about who this woman is, what she's supposed to know, how she's supposed to function. Of course, I'm a black and white ABC 1, 2, 3 girl. I have turned a little bit better now, a little more flexibility. At that time, I had none.
You know, that's a great point, Miriam. Let me interrupt you a second. When you know change is coming, when you know you're going to get into a different situation and you're going to be living in a different culture or a different place, read up.
Yeah.
Do some homework. The internet, you got everything at your fingertips. Go online and
So
search what
I
it's like
wanted
to live
to-
in crazy Texas.
And I wanted to be this perfect dorm mother. Perfect. No room for error. So what does God give me? He gives me two beautiful young ladies that came with an option of enrolling in Christian college or going to jail. So needless to say, Christian college was not really at the top of their list. And you got to understand, this was 33 years ago. 4 years ago. So the Miriam that I am now was not her. She had never, we didn't, I was, I didn't talk to people like that. And here I was, their dorm mother. And so I go in to do room check, and on the wall is a naked man. An actually really handsome one. But the lucky part about me is they had, before I came in, after I knocked, they had put another little poster over the, that part. And so, but the muscles were still there. And it made an lasting, indelible print in my brain, because my little brain was so sheltered. She did not know girls did that. And they're in my dormitory upstairs, okay? And so I go, so who is he? Oh, you don't know him? I go, uh-uh. So I just acted like I was smart, and I was tough, and I had this all together. And I says, well, let's just say keep his clothes on, okay? And I left. So we started having missing jewelry in the dorm. Some very priceless things. Then the girls started coming to me. I thought, really, God? Who do you think I am? Well, obviously I knew who it was. One of them was a kleptomaniac. Is that what you call it? Thief? She didn't know they had filled me in on that, which I knew. And I said, what am I going to do, God? Because if she's here to find you and you to find her, if I send her to jail, then she's going to hate Christians. Now, even I knew that. Even as sheltered as I was back then, I knew that. So I prayed about what to do. So I called a dorm meeting of all the girls, and I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Some of the jewelry is missing for those of you that don't know, and we all live in close quarters. So tonight, I'm giving you permission to return what you've taken. But I had called the police, and I asked them what we could do. And they said, we can come and dust the whole dorm upstairs and find fingerprints and decide who this is. So I said, or in the morning at 10 o'clock, if it's not returned, I have already made a call to the police. They will come and dust the entire dorm upstairs, find the fingerprints, and identify who you are. I don't want to do that. That's not who I am, and that's not where my heart is. But this is the option I'm giving to you. She returned everything that night. But then she came to my door and about beat it down. And she said, you were going to call the cops on me. Now, I wasn't even for certain it was who she was. You know what I'm saying? And she got angry and she ran. And ran and ran, and they caught her. But she did come back and she got to stay, but she never spoke to me again. Because that change was huge in her life for someone not to call the cops on her. For someone to give her a second chance. Sometimes change can be so uncomfortable and so different, we don't know how to embrace it. We don't know how to handle it. We don't know what to do with it. Alan and I were foster parents for a year of a daughter, and we showed her love like we'd felt before. She showed up with a grocery bag of just clothes, and that was it, and been in foster care since she was 5. I said, where's the rest of your things?
She was like 6 to 17,
She
16.
was 17. Where's the rest of your things? She says, oh, this is it. My foster parents took the money, bought their 5 kids clothes and stuff, and we got to go to Goodwill and pick out a grocery sack. And that's all she had. And the whole time she was with us, which washcloths do I use? Which towels can I use? What can I drink out of the refrigerator? I'm like, oh my goodness. Foster care had also abused this child in a different way. And so we only had her for a year, and I thought, well, that ain't going to happen here. I said, whatever's good enough for us to drink is good enough for you to drink. Whatever washcloths we can use is good enough for you to use. And I just began to embrace and help her, I hope, feel embraced. She got a check every month to buy clothes, and I took her down. She had never cashed a check. She had never spent a dime. I said, you pick out your clothes. You're 17 years old. She wanted a white jacket. She was Italian, beautiful black hair, dark skin. Next thing I know, we're getting a call, and when she met with her counselor, she told him she wanted to move because she didn't know what to do with the love we had.
She told us, she said, I've never been loved like this. I can't handle, you
love
guys
me too much.
love me too much.
To do. Well, I was devastated. I said, how can you do that? I said, how could you not want to be here? And she says, and then she got angry and lashed out. So sometimes change can even be beautiful and wonderful, but if you don't know how to reach out and take it and embrace it, it is still not, no one can make you do that. Can you hear what I'm trying to say? And it was years later, a year later, after she got out of her home, she turned 18, was out of the system, she called me. This woman says, Mom, I'm like, Mom, I have 2 sons. Mom. I said, is this Gina? Yes, Mom, can I come home? My foster mom and I got in a fight and she beat me up. I said, you can't come home, Gina. I'm no longer in the system. I only did that for you. They won't let you come here. A lot of times God puts good changes right in front of us, makes it very clear. But we're so stuck on what we want, what we think is right, we can't embrace that change. Gina could not embrace that change. We never heard from her for a long time. We moved up here, and we were here probably 10 months here. We're out on Echo Lake Road.
2 or 3 years we're here.
And I get this phone call. Mom, is this Gina? Yes, Mom. I want you to know I'm happily married. I have a little boy, and his name's Timothy. And you're a grandma. I said, Gina, come see me, baby. I can't, Mom. I don't have any money. And I never heard from her again.
Yeah, we never heard her again. Sad. It was a great
So,
opportunity, but
what I'm saying is she knew that that change was good. Many times we know that change is good. That change is right. But because it doesn't fit into our world, into our mold, into our what we want, we push it away. We push that good change away because we do not know how to adequately embrace
a lot of times we feel unworthy.
it. Unworthy.
We're unqualified. I can't let this person love me. I'm a horrible person. That was a huge insecurity issue for me. How could she love a jerk like me? But you got to push through and get into to get God's perspective of that God loves you as you are. A lot of times we even push God away and maybe feel called to the ministry, but I can't go into ministry. I'm such a sinner.
Well, if I go into ministry, what about my life?
Yeah.
You know, usually when we're resisting change, it's a selfish thing. Because it's not fitting into the plan we had for ourselves. But change sometimes can be the best. Most changes work out, and I want to move on. So keep it in perspective. But keeping this perspective helps lower the panic and fear level that comes along with the many changes we face in life.
Steve mentioned fear.
Yep, and that's
earlier.
where we're going.
And this is huge. The fear factor is
So the second step
unbelievable
is
in
to
resisting
entrust
change.
God with the changes. Give God the changes.
Trust God with the change.
One of the questions that most epitomizes how we feel about change is the following. How will I ever be able to deal with this change? Isn't that what we're talking about with COVID-19? All this talk about the difficulty of dealing or coping with change is usually a sign of fear. Fear that we won't be able to adjust.
Well, listen to these fears.
Fear that we'll be left behind. Fear that the pain will be too great. Fear that what was precious or comfortable for us will be lost forever. Fear we won't like what change brings. I'm not saying that these are not legitimate feelings or concerns.
I am.
Excuse me?
They're not legitimate. They're false evidence appearing real.
Well, you know what, Alan?
Called fear.
The deal is some people struggle with fear more than others.
Yeah.
Because some people don't really look at fear. They get this tough man syndrome. But they're just as scared.
But fear is false evidence
that's fine.
appearing real.
You're right. But the
You
point
should
is,
not let it
but at the
control our
moment,
lives.
it's hard. When I'm in the airplane and the turbulence is bad, the fear is real.
Oh, it's not real.
My hands sweat. My head hurts. And I have to start praying God's word.
She gets praying, y'all. I mean, she prays in the Holy Ghost when the turbulence gets
One
tough.
time, they
She's
flew us
praying out loud.
They flew us out of Chicago, and they should not have flown us out of Chicago. The weather was horrible. They got us up there, and they rode us round and round and round. Then they said we might be run out of gas. They said that. We need to find a place to land, people. We've already tried 2 airports, and the weather's closed it. Well, how would you feel? I had an element of fear, let me tell you what.
No, not an element.
I'm telling you.
Truckload.
Finally, they land us in
Grand Rapids,
Michigan. Oh, I was so grateful to get down from that thing.
That's another story. We got to move on.
No, this goes with fear.
Oh, okay.
We got plenty of time here. We got till 12 o'clock. So we get there. We're in this airport, and they say we're going to be here many hours because the storms won't let up.
Thunder and lightning all over.
Oh,
pouring
the whole
down
sky.
rain. Unbelievable.
Then they put us on the airplane in 2 hours.
So we're leaving.
And we're in the middle of the storm.
Sitting on the
I
tarmac.
am not kidding you, the eye of the storm.
Sitting on the tarmac.
This woman, pilot, comes over and says, ladies and gentlemen, I know it doesn't look good, but don't worry, we're going to fly around the storm. And we're going to be fine. So we take off.
No, you forgot. This big guy gets up
yeah.
and goes up to the flight
Talk
attendant.
about me, tall
A
as
big,
you.
a
Tall
big
as
guy,
you.
Tim, but your
I
size.
am not flying on this flight.
I want off this plane
I want
right
off
now.
This plane, and the flight attendant, sir.
I mean, he's serious.
We've already locked
furious.
the door.
We're out on the tarmac. The plane's
Had
locked.
we been smart, the whole plane would have got up right behind him and refused to leave. When we took off, it was like boulders.
And then the flight attendant went to the pilot. Pilot came on and said, "We're leaving right now," and we took off
and
into the lightning.
It was like boulders hitting that plane. And then I said, you know what? So I start praying, thinking it's under my breath. Alan goes, Miriam, you're praying loud. I said, let me tell you something. Everybody in this plane needs to be praying loud if they got any sense. Because God is the only one that's going to bring us through this. Well, when we landed, we were all sick as dogs, and she apologized because she thought she was going around the storm, and we flew through the eye of the storm.
Hey, we survived.
And we got down, went to the counter, and they wanted to put me right back on another one. And they did. But what I told that story for is sometimes for change we have to go through it kicking and screaming. And it's okay as long as we invite God in the mix. And I did invite him into the mix.
Yeah, buddy.
It didn't mean that the fear was not real to me. It didn't mean that I didn't have the emotions or the feelings that I told you I'm having. What it meant was I was not doing it alone. That I had Jesus with me. It says, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Isaiah 41:10.
You know, one of my favorite stories is Jesus and his disciples in the lake. And I don't remember where it is in the Gospels, but Jesus told his guys, let's get in the boat and go to the other side of the lake. Kevin, Bible scholar, where's that at? Anyway, never mind.
Find it.
But get across the lake. So and in a storm, what does Jesus do when he tells them that? He goes in the back of the boat and lays down and takes a nap. The storm comes.
Yeah.
Seas raging, splashing over the boat. The disciples are freaking out.
Yeah.
And they're going nuts. And they wake him up and say, Master, don't you care that we're about to perish?
Yeah.
But what did Jesus tell them before they got in the boat? What did he say to them? We're going to the other side. Jesus didn't say we're going out in the middle of the water and drown.
Yeah.
He didn't say we're going to sink. He said we're going to the other side.
Yeah.
And see, if they had put their faith in what Jesus said, their trust in what God said, they wouldn't have been freaking out.
Right.
But he woke up, of course, and calmed the sea,
Yeah.
and they made it to the other side, like Jesus knew they was already going to. And a lot of times we fear, we allow whatever the change situation to freak us out, and we get fear overwhelm us, and I'm telling you, fear is a liar.
But fear is also an invitation to trust in the Lord. That's what it does for me. You know, when I get that way and I know it's totally out of my control, I can't change anything about it. If I'm in the airplane, I can't fix that. But it invites me to trust God. To reminds me that, hey, you feeling every bump I'm feeling, we got this. We're going to be all right. So we want to trust God, but there are times when peace is just not there. We feel worried and anxious. We don't want to be brave this time. I've heard people say that. I'm always brave. I'm always the bigger person. I don't want to be that. Then God reminds us in Joshua 1:9, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.
Wherever you go.
There are real life scenarios that will cause upheaval and uncertainty in anyone who experiences these kinds of changes in their lives, such as a woman with surgery for breast cancer and her concern for the changes that will result from this is real. Or a 47-year-old man loses his job with his company he's worked for 25 years, and this will bring serious changes into his life. There are real scenarios. A couple decides to sell their home and move to a retirement community. A young person chooses to go to college far away from home. A young couple has their first baby. These are real scenarios that bring change. Of course, there will be fear, anxiety, and stress, but what I'm saying is that there does not only have to be fear, anxiety, and stress. For the Christian, there's the avenue of prayer that brings us into the presence and protection of Almighty God. In Hebrews 13, the writer experiences his utmost trust in God in the face of all circumstances when he writes these words. Let your character be free from the love of money, being content with what you have, for he himself has said, I will never desert you, nor will I forsake you, so that we confidently say, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What shall man do unto me? Change is threatening, frightening, and difficult. In our world today, we don't know what we're going to wake up to every day. But let me help you with that. We didn't know what we were going to wake up to every day before this happened.
Yeah, buddy.
If the truth be known,
Before COVID.
what has happened is the world has given us a focus factor that everybody's thinking about, dwelling on. But it is not impossible, nor does it have to be the cause for a negative experience. Change does not have to be that. God assures us that he will always be with us, to watch over us, and to provide for us. It's easy to believe this while times are stable and predictable.
You know, one of the things, Miriam, I have done over the years, I made it a practice, because I don't like change any more than anybody else. But one of the things that we have deliberately done over the years is deliberately prepared and planned and injected change into our life. When we came here, we threw the hymn books away and we started singing the songs. We went down to Casey's Treats Conference and we heard all the new songs and we brought those songs back here. We were one of the earliest churches in this community to sing the new contemporary worship stuff.
And if you think that was easy for me,
we
I
totally
came from Southern
changed
roots.
it all.
I mean, you didn't sing wild stuff like we're singing now. And you certainly didn't wiggle like we do. And we wiggle very little compared to Kevin's church.
One of the things that
We
happened,
don't even wiggle.
we had a 10-piece band, a 6-piece band up here. We had
For
lead
25
guitar,
years.
rhythm guitar. We had drummers. We had, everything. And one by one, they moved away, and we were left with a bass player.
And
that was it.
How we embraced change for the initial onset was, I can read music, but you have a groove and you have a style. And just because you can read music, it doesn't mean your fingers can make it come out like that. And I would pray. I'd go to these conferences. I'd say, God, I want to bring this here. And my pianist said, I can't do that, Sister Miriam. I said, yes, we can. We can do, and God would impart that to me. Couldn't play it now if you paid me money. God would impart that to me. I would impart that to her. And then eventually she grew in her faith and he imparted it to her. And God helped us birth those songs in this church.
But then they moved away. She moved away, another one moved away,
Yeah.
or changed churches
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
and we had nobody but
Yeah.
Miriam and a bass player.
Yeah.
And then, so we decided to start using tracks
Yeah.
because there's nothing else to do. And the bass player got mad and left, went to another church because he could listen to that on the radio. He wasn't going to do that.
And I struggled with it because I'm a keyboard player, but
so I told Miriam, I said, and I remember deliberately, I said to her, Miriam, what if tracks were the latest cutting edge in contemporary worship and praise? I said, what if? I said, why don't we embrace that as if it was the latest, greatest thing in praise and worship? And guess what? It is now. Huge churches are listening, playing tracks.
And it's not just the people in the woods.
It's not out of, so there's change in your life. Another change I deliberately set up. I used an iPhone for 10 years, 12 years, and I deliberately chose to change from an iPhone to an Android. I deliberately chose, that's a huge learning curve. But 10 years ago, 8 years, 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
He deliberately chose, I deliberately.
She got to choose, and I went to an Android phone, and it was a tough change at first. I didn't like it.
No.
She liked it less.
Yes.
But we made the change, and now it's become very, very comfortable.
Okay.
You need to be willing to embrace change in your life because it's coming. With our age situation here, I hate to pull this age card out and talk about it, but we're not
then
40.
Don't do it, Alan.
We're not 40 anymore, Dan. We're not in our 30s anymore. We're not in our 50s anymore.
Be
We,
gentle.
I'm 3 years and a couple of months away from 70.
Oh,
How
you
in the
light
world
up
did I get
my
that old?
life.
How did I get this old?
One day at a
So
time.
now we can fight it or we can embrace it.
Yep.
Kevin, talk to me a minute. Give me some help. Help me a minute.
Well, no.
Talk to me.
Well, yeah, Kevin. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Change, and I like change. So you don't make huge changes. You just start making small changes, incremental changes along the way.
One bite at a time.
Yes, yes. And so with that, I think another thing is you're not going to be successful every time you try to change. So
No.
don't give up when you feel like you failed,
Yeah.
because they'll statement is there's no such things as failure unless you stop trying. And you have to start acting as if. Faith is acting as if. So your mind, your thoughts, once you change that, you have to stay there, and you have to act as though that is the new you, because that's the you God created you to be.
Exactly.
And I think one of the things that's missed the most, honestly, is you have to develop faith-based, non-biased support. In other words, it's people who will speak to your life the Word of God, regardless of what you're going through. It's not your mother, it's not your friend, it's not your parent, it's not your boyfriend. It's non-biased. Use a pastor, use a mentor, use a friend that just really wants to see you grow. You can use that. But quit going to that person that always just tells you what you want to hear,
Yeah.
because what you're doing is you're not looking for change. You're looking for agreement for your actions.
Affirmation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of the reasons I struggle with doing counseling so much, because a lot of people, when they come for counseling, they really don't want to hear the truth. They want you to support what they said, right,
Yeah.
Kevin? They want you to agree with them. And I'm not a good counselor, because I try to tell the truth. And there's several of you in this room that I've spoken some really hard words to over the
Yeah.
years, and talked to you the way tough, hard talk, because I was under the assumption you wanted to change.
Yeah.
You wanted some truth in your life. So my perspective is, don't ask me a question that you are not willing to handle my answer. Because I'm going to do my best to tell you the truth, even if it's hurting your feelings. Because I want to help you. So and Kevin is worse than I am.
So let's do a little wrap on all of the stuff that we've thrown out on the table. It's easy for me to experience change when things are stable and predictable. But when we find ourselves in the eye of the storm, that this promise, it's very difficult to experience change. But think of it. Is anything too difficult for God? Do changes confuse God or make it any more difficult for him to care for us? On the contrary, I found that it's in the process of change and upheaval that my relationship with God grows stronger, more intimate, and more spiritually satisfying, because I cry out to him.
And you know this is coming, so here it is. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own limited understanding, limited my insertion. What's that third one?
In all thy ways acknowledge him.
In all your ways acknowledge him.
And he shall
And he shall direct your path.
All right, I'm going to leave you with some thought-provoking things. Write this down. You got 3 options to decide which one you are. We react to change in different ways. Number 1, are you A, resignation? Write that word, resignation. Some people resign themselves to it. This is a kind of a passive-aggressive approach to change. They do not resist it, but they do not accept it either. The change does not change them. It merely changes their circumstances. Or are you resistance? That's B. Some fight change, any kind of change. This is how they cope with it. They resist it. Sometimes we do have to resist change because the change is a bad one, but some people resist change because they are against any change at all. Or are you C, repetition? And still others promote change. Oh my, such promoters. These people love change because change is the antidote to their boredom and lack of sense of self. These are the folks who make change happen because they like change. Any change. Would you like for me to read those again?
Hey, change
quickly,
is inevitable.
A, resignation. Some simply resign themselves to it. This is a kind of a passive-aggressive approach to change.
You already said that.
They asked me to reread them. They do not resist it, but they do not accept it either. The change does not change them. It merely changes their circumstances. Or B, resistance. Some fight change, any kind of change. This is how they cope with it. They resist it. Sometimes we do have to resist change because the change is a bad one. But some people resist change because they are against any kind of change at all. Or repetition is C, and still others promote change. These people love change because change is the antidote to their boredom and lack of sense of self.
There's a 4th one.
No.
Yes, there's a 4th one. There's
Okay.
a D.
What
I'm
is
adding it right now, okay?
What is it?
I'm trumping your little list here. Receptive to change. If you are receptive to change and willing to change,
Oh, yeah.
it can be a wonderful thing if you're receptive. Talk to me, Kevin.
I had to learn to embrace change. That's what I call embracing change.
Yeah.
Most change for people is painful because they won't embrace what needs to happen. In other words, you saw it coming, you were warned about it, you did nothing about it, now you're in the middle of it, and you're in pain over it.
Exactly.
But if you would embrace the steps necessary to get through it, to embrace it, change. I always remember as a pastor, because people always say, people don't like change, people don't like change. But I had to learn that's not true. People don't like the way I lead them through change sometimes. So I have to lead them through change like I lead myself through change. I lead myself through change by seeing what's coming, predicting. Remember you said earlier, looking out ahead.
Yeah.
And when you see that coming, the signs are there. And if you don't change before they're there, now you're in painful change because you were either resistant or, you did it out of another motive. That's why I said it's intentional change. You have to see it, change it, then it's not nearly as painful, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we're not rejecting change, we're simply processing something new. So here's the summary. Accept the fact that changes in life are natural and inevitable. Try to keep the changes in your life in proper perspective. Put your trust in God. Now we're going to put a capsule on it. Whatever we need, God will provide. Whatever we lose, God will restore in his own way. Or, of course, there is one final change we all should look forward to as Christians, and that is the change we will undergo when Jesus returns. Our mortal bodies will be transformed, changed into glorious ones in order to dwell in heaven with God forever, 1 Thessalonians 4:17. So, in a way, the many changes we undergo in life prepare us to experience the greatest and final change when Jesus comes. Let's cope with change. With
Absolutely.
faith, trust, and hope.
Kevin, any final thoughts? All right. Anyone else? And Jack, we had a couple of minutes.
I just wanted to say, like, one of the things, I'm taking notes, and one of the things
Oh, yeah.
We misplace our faith, and they talked about our circumstances, they talked about our challenges, they talked about the things that bring us down and that evil and Satan lets us cling to. But when we focus on the promises, we go on through change.
Well,
Sometimes most of us are in a place of change. Some people call it growth or change, and you find yourself on the other side.
Yeah.
You didn't even need a life jacket, because your faith was placed properly in Christ, in Him crucified, in His word. So I just love it. I love when you start. I love it.
old song we used to sing in Sunday school, standing on the promises of God, my
King.
King.
Through eternal praises, let His something sing.
So standing on the
Standing
promises
on
of
the
God.
promises
says
of God. That's what it was.
Are you standing on the promises?
Standing. Come on, Kevin. Standing. Standing on the promises of God, my Savior. Standing. Standing. I am standing on the promises of God.
Are you standing on the promises? Are you standing on the promises? Yeah, but my life's going to hell. Stand on the promises.
Well, I just want to say I'm sad Toby was not here, but I had a blast.
Yeah.
That was so much fun.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Father, for this time together. Thank you for your word that is solid and that is light. And I thank you that we can, in the midst of insane circumstances, fear overwhelming, waves of fear crashing in our little boat, we're going to drown. We can stand on the promise that you said we're going to the other side.
Amen.
You'll never leave us nor forsake us. I thank you for that, Father, and we commit it to you in Jesus' name.
Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you so much. Don't forget your T-shirts. Lunch out to camp in a bit. Dinner at 5 out there. Fellowship after church tonight. Lord willing, Kent Redfern will be in the house tonight.
Woo!
So
Thank you for
very
adjusting
much.
the change.